talked about how Clark's calf looked like
dude.
a thigh of chicken. Like we
Yeah.
start applying that to human
Right.
legs and muscles and
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like you're walking a dangerous line because I'm not gonna lie, when you mentioned that Clark's like looked like a chicken, I was like, "Ah, I could really go for some chicken right now. It's like I'm
Does
not that far
does
from
that
wanting to
make me
eat Clark's leg.
It felt just like if you pick up like a chicken breast, especially if it's sitting out just a little bit, and yeah, it feels just like a
Yeah.
calf muscle. It's the weirdest thing. And almost every time that I cut chicken breast, I think of Clark's leg. So, thanks, Eric. Appreciate that.
Oh dear
Well,
God.
it did nothing to appease your appetite for chicken, so
That's
take
true.
from that
Yeah.
whatever you will.
It's just it's maybe I think it's more of a degrees of relation more than an actual, like, it doesn't literally feel that way, but it's just that's what it makes you think of. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So we're sitting here with Kevin Jaye, who was a fella over in 3rd Platoon. And actually, Kevin, you're our first guest from 3rd, I think. Right, Curtis?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I
he
think
is.
that's what you guys said.
He
Good.
also has the distinction of being our first amputee
What?
from the deployment. So, I don't want to mess with it. I kind of wanted to do the applause from the soundboard, but I don't have the confidence to do that I won't fuck it up.
Right.
Uh,
It's one of those things where like you don't want to be the first, but
well, it gives you a way you can look down on everybody that got blown up after you. Be like, okay, slow down.
like, come on.
Yeah.
Didn't you look where you were walking? Obviously I didn't. But come on. Like, why are you guys trying to be like me? I'm just that brand new private to your guys' unit. Like, you don't need to follow me. Like,
Right. Well, that's you were leading the charge on that one, my good man.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, they say that like they call them like classes at Walter Reed, like you're the class of 2012 or whatever. So that would mean like you were like the senior,
Right.
the class president or something of
Of a
Walter
class
Reed
that I
class of
didn't want to be a part of, but
Yeah.
somehow I was. Yeah, no, I mean, with where I stepped and like the proximity of that, I'm glad it was me because, just for the sake of, I had Maddox, I had Adams back there. Those are the guys that I was really close with. No offense to, anybody else, but, those are the guys that I've been with for over a year. And, I know their families, more so Maddox. I know them, and I'm like, someone was going to get hit that day.
Yeah.
From where that IED was, you said you drew it out, like from where that IED was, it was just a matter of time before one of those guys hit that.
It would have been somebody making that right hand turn. And I will, when we talk about your story and we put this up on YouTube, I'm gonna put my drawing up there and I'm gonna run it by you first. But I have a very good idea of what it looked like.
I mean, you can do it without my permission. I don't care. I mean,
I'm gonna do it with your permission. I ain't gonna speak for you, but
yeah, that was the crazy thing about during our pre-interview. We found, as you were talking about when you got hit, Curtis and I, like, we were joking, we were talking about afterwards.
Yeah,
we could visualize it. Like, if I could paint, if I could draw, I know exactly what happened there that day.
Yeah,
but we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, true. But
yeah, that's true. So at this point, most of our guests that are on the show have actually seen the show or the podcast or listened to it. So you actually kind of do know the format. So Kevin, if you could just kind of give us a little bit of background of how you ended up to join the Army, why you chose infantry. And you have a pretty unique set of circumstances that brought you to Bravo Company 164, which I didn't know are very similar to our most recent guest, which was Tom Evans. Had a very similar path. So if you could just kind of give us the elevator speech of how you ended up at Bravo 164.
So, like, before I joined the military, I was, working at a bunch of not really odd jobs, but I was a sales supervisor at Office Max, like right out of high school. I worked for a merchant processing company called First Data, and then it was more of my like recent job, like in 2008, 2009, where I was working for Mythic Entertainment, which is kind of like what a sister company or some little entity of Electronic Arts. And so I was,
which is a massive company.
right, yeah. And so we were, so I got that job as basically, a GM for Warhammer Online: Age of Reckoning. So
Hell yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
at that time that was supposed to be the WoW killer.
Yeah.
And that was a fantastic job. The drive sucked. I was like driving from Smithsburg, Maryland, all the way to Fairfax, Virginia.
No, that not to back you up too much, but that would have been based off the Warhammer board game, right?
Yes.
That was the
Yeah.
central concept.
Yep.
That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely
nerds unite.
right. It was. It was probably like one of the coolest jobs because I was just like I was a little gem. So if you got stuck in the game, I'd jump out to your like location and yank you so you not stuck anymore. If you missing an item, I could if you accidentally sold one and couldn't get it back, I could redo it. And something that I really liked was looking into the quests and like why they were broke. So it was very, very fun, but sadly in 2008, 2009, we know kind of like what happened there. And then that game just didn't do well. And mainly because they weren't fixing stuff. They tried to open with too many servers instead of, because they didn't want to have like queue times because everyone hates waiting. But,
Right.
The other side of that is you opened 100 servers. Now everyone's spread out.
Yeah.
Then you don't fix stuff. And then there's like, it was a game solely based on you need to have like even numbers on both sides, so
Right.
it just didn't work. So
Also, it's tough to unseat something like WoW, man. Like,
yeah,
many have
Yes, it's
tried,
not
and
been-
all
Oh,
of
yeah.
them have
Oh, yeah.
failed.
I mean,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
definitely had the chance if they executed it a little better, I think. And I'm
Mm.
not just saying that because, I worked there, but they had a very good, format for it, a very good outlook. And they had a bigger base probably than World of Warcraft. I mean, Warhammer. That board
Warhammer's
game,
huge. Yeah.
Like, how old is that?
Yeah.
No
That's
telling.
Yeah.
There's no telling. But
and there's no higher class of nerd except maybe D&D players. Like
Right.
Warhammer is like one
Warhammer's
step below
pretty
D&D
nerdy.
players.
Yeah.
That's real nerdy.
yeah,
Yeah.
Warhammer has so many different. They got like, what is it? The 40K. They even have like the Space Marine one or whatever it is.
They've got a Star Wars knockoff of Warhammer.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Oh, really?
So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
like I made it through. With 2008, 2009, they started laying people off, and I made it to like 8 waves of it. It was not a good time for that whole entire business. And so then I just struggled trying to find a job. They definitely did pay me well for like kind of like a severance package, but I couldn't really find anything, and at that time it was scarce to find anything anyway.
Sure.
Just because of the times, and so I decided, I wanted to maybe get into the military. And at first I just wanted to do like reserves. I didn't really want to like travel. I kind of wanted to stay home. I wanted to try to do like a 25 uniform, something nerdy. Definitely wasn't even remotely thinking of infantry at that time. But so then I did the ASVAB and failed that miserably. This is like going on 5 years after being in high school. So,
Yeah.
And it
I
really
didn't
is
get-
like high school level
yeah,
math and English. And if you don't like go back and restudy like your old high school stuff, like,
Yeah. you're screwed.
you're screwed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, I tried college. I tried HC, local community college. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And so, I thought, okay, let's go to the military. At least they'll kick my ass into, better shape. And, even if I just do reserves, that basic training and all that will still kind of maybe like knock some sense into me or something. But, took the ASVAB, failed that miserably. They were like, well, you can't do reserves. The only thing that you have is infantry. And I was just like, I was like, can I retake it? And they were like, no. And probably I would have been able to retake it at some point, but I just
definitely could have.
At that point I was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, when you joined as infantry, did you know what was like? Did you understand what the job was?
Oh, I mean, I knew like what infantry was. It's not like I was completely, blind to it.
Yeah.
Did I think I was going to have a blast? No. I thought, I just needed to change. And, I think that it was going to do what I wanted. And I wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So let's do something, let's do something meaningful, because they always do that little spiel of, you're joining after 9/11, all this, stuff's terrible over there. And like, sure. Okay, let's go.
Cool.
So, I joined. I did kind of like a delayed program. So I'd join or like go to basic in October instead of like June, because I think that's what I was going to do if I didn't do the delayed program. And I thought going to Georgia, I'll go in October. So it's nice and cool, because I do not like the heat. I was completely wrong. And that was a totally different cold too. So that all sucked, but
yeah, that southern humid cold.
Yeah.
Just
It's something different.
It's different, man.
Yeah.
It was -10 here like last week, and I went to go get firewood and a hoodie and a jeans and my slippers.
Right.
I would never have done that.
Yeah.
Below 20 degrees.
I mean, I go
Georgia.
I'm here in Maryland, and I go snowblow in shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just different.
It's whatever.
It cuts right through you, man.
Yeah, it just cuts through. You can put on all the layers, and it just cuts right down to the bone, man. Yeah.
And so, getting close to the end of basic, they do their whole thing where they start telling you where you're going. And I remember the drill sergeant was like, who the fuck did you piss off? You're going to Fort Stewart. I'm like, that's awesome. So, I'm going from one end of Georgia to the other. I do have to say, though, like Fort Stewart is, the base itself, not the greatest, but the location of it for like your 2-day weekends or, extended weekends, it's like the perfect place, because you have all these cool locations within those weekend trips.
That's
and
true.
I don't know if there's a lot of bases that are like that, where, you have that luxury of being so close to things.
So when you first got there, you got sent to 2-7, right?
Yep, 2-7 Infantry, Bravo Company. So I didn't leave, I stuck with Bravo, apparently. I didn't have like the greatest time, and what private does have a great time, like when they first get to a unit, and in hindsight, I appreciate that rough go, like being a private, getting to your unit and just getting the crap smoked out of you like every single day.
And you were probably one of the first, like you're probably in that fresh batch of privates off their deployment from Iraq, right? So you had to be pretty early on in that rotation.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And, and for me, I had a big confidence issue. And so, like, we'd have my squad leader at that time, I think it was Sergeant Para. He was real rough on me, and like they were always like wanting to study, all the infantry stuff. And don't ask me it now, because I know for a fact I don't remember half of it. But
turns out it didn't matter.
Exactly. Because they wanted you to walk in a wedge, and we walked in, ducks in a row. But he would always like test us on our knowledge, and for the most part, I knew, I was studying and everything, and I knew it, but I wasn't sure of myself, and he could sense that. And so was always getting on me about that, and was doing push-ups all the time and whatever. But, and again, in hindsight, thank you for that. because it
Right.
definitely helped me out in the later run. Um, so we were there so that was probably like February of 2011, and so into 7 for about a year, and then it's you know March of 2012 when, or like more February, the end of February of 2012 was when my squad, 27 Bravo, I forget what platoon we were. We were probably third platoon
Mm.
there as well. And that was me, Maddox, Adams, Mahoney, and Mora. And we were told, like, hey, you guys are going to be going to 164 Armor, and you guys are getting ready to deploy like right away.
Mm.
They're at NTC right now, and they don't have enough dudes to go on their deployment. So,
Did you have any idea? Like, so when you guys started getting word that you were coming to us, did you have any idea what to expect out of the deployment? Like, did they give you any information about what
no,
was going on in the AO or anything like that? Or was it just like you're going?
not really. I mean, we did hear some like news around the area. Like
Mhm.
there, I think that was some kind of crazy stuff going on, but no, we didn't really hear anything of what was going on. It's just, hey, you're going over here.
Mm.
They leave in like about 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks or whatever. Get your affairs in order, and yeah, bye. And so like our
It's interesting that they did it like that, because if they
Yeah.
had just gone to your company and be like, "Hey, we need 5 guys to go on a deployment in 2 weeks," they would have gotten 5 volunteers.
Yeah.
There would have been 5 guys like, "Yep, sign me up." But to just grab 5 guys like, "You're going," is like,
yeah, no, I
come
think
on, man.
it was not like that.
Yeah.
It was, I think I don't know. I mean, granted, I was just a private at that time. But I don't know if they sent it down the chain, like to the platoon sergeants, hey, pick a squad to go. And, and they're going. And I
Right.
guess it was more of just like, yeah, we'll help out, and we'll have them back. And then realize, no, you're not getting them back. They're going to be with them for, the long haul. And I know our platoon sergeant at that time, Sergeant White, was not happy with that whatsoever. But it was nice. They kind of threw us like a little going away, ceremony at that day or whatever before we went to you guys.
So you came to us, you know, basically as soon as you got there, you deployed. So you didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
You didn't know anybody in the platoon. And,
No.
yeah, you guys got attached to third platoon right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at least I stayed with my squad, which was
Sure.
nice about it. It wasn't that bad, let's put it
Yeah.
that way. Because I was still with the guys that I knew. And then I think we gained, what was it? We gained a couple like brand new privates.
So you came to us roughly around the same time that Tom Evans and his group came to us.
Yep.
And then also the same time that I came to the platoon,
Mhm.
because we were all part of this one big group. Except I think you came even later, because we were already doing training and stuff. And I remember you guys, in hindsight, showing up towards the end of our train up, because we did like all those sticks lanes and IED lanes and
Yeah.
classes
No,
beforehand.
I don't think
You didn't join us for that. You showed up like right at the end. We're like, "Oh, we're going too."
Yeah, like we maybe we should have been there for that.
No, you would not have
maybe
gained anything from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't have done anything for you.
no.
Yeah.
Still would have lost it.
Yeah, probably. So we get to Afghanistan, as a platoon, and we get to Sperwan Ghar. We've already talked about how awesome Sperwan Ghar was as a base.
Yeah, like I said, I was being brand new, I was surprised with what we had.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good setup.
So we get there, we start doing missions and stuff. I know third platoon didn't get into any contact early on. We got the first contact, and then
Mhm.
you guys chased it around for a while.
Yeah,
And I don't remember if anybody got a CIB before clearing the horn, but you guys definitely got a lot of CIBs clearing the horn.
yeah.
Now you said you didn't really have much, going on with that, but do you remember much about any of those firefights down in the horn?
I remember them. It's just I, rem- I remember when our own mortars were like getting close to our own guys.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember that. A lot of the firefights, like I said, they were happening up in the front. I was with Maddox and my team in the back, and we were just always pulling rear security, so we were always, um, at the tail. So
Right.
I didn't really, like I said, I didn't really get to see a lot of that or do anything like that. I do remember the day we lost Lux, um, which was rough. You know, but again, I was in the back. I was in the back, and then hearing that come down the chain was
Sure.
not fun to hear.
Yeah.
And then had to like run up to kind of pull security when um, they get them out.
Yeah. So I mean that particular incident, um, was it a pretty sustained amount of fire that you heard and then nothing, or was it, were you guys in a pretty meaty gunfight for a while?
I don't think it was for very long. I mean, granted, that was a long time ago now,
Sure.
to come to think of it,
Mhm.
but I don't think it was very long.
Yeah.
I think it was that. I think it was more of like, they probably did, counted like, 10 with
Mm.
firing and then ran off. And
Right.
then we did our like firing back and, you know, um, trying to see like what's going on, but it did not last for long. I mean, I don't even think we got anybody that day.
No. Well, and the reason I ask is because that was roughly the same area that you got hit.
Yeah.
Mm.
Not the
Yeah,
exact
very
same village, but it was very
pretty close.
close.
Yeah.
Um, so I didn't know if that brought back any memories for you, but
No, I mean, no, I think, like I said before, is like my mind. I think because I was there for such a short period of time,
yeah,
and I really Lux, and then maybe a couple BDAs that we had to go out for, and I think I even had to take a prisoner back to CAF.
right,
And those were like the only times I really saw anything
right,
like really kind of crazy. Um, so I think I wasn't really exposed. Let's put it
sure,
that way to a
yeah.
lot.
And we've talked about that several times. That especially because you were a saw gunner, especially as one of the two saw gunners in a squad going out. One's in the front, one's in the back. And, the firefight was very rarely in the entire formation, so it was very, very easy to be the guy that was always on the other end of the formation from the firefight.
That was always kind of rough for me, and especially with because I did some public speaking like um, once I got out of the military, and I came to find out that I didn't really like talk. Not that I didn't really like talking to them. It's just I didn't really feel like I connected very well to guys our age or the older
Sure.
crowd because they all they did something and yeah, okay, I stepped on a IED and yeah, whatever. But I didn't do. I feel like I didn't do the same things that everyone else did, um, and that always kind of like eats at me a little bit. Which is why like sometimes I'm a little like hesitant in talking to people from my generation or even the older generation because I just don't feel like I in a way fit in. Because they're talking with all these war stories or whatever, and whether or not they're BS or accurate,
Yeah.
I just don't feel like I fit in because all I did was step on something and go home. That's it. Um,
Yeah, I mean, and they call that imposter syndrome, where especially as a wounded warrior,
yeah,
I can totally understand why you would feel that way. I would
Yeah.
disagree. I
yeah,
think you're absolutely
I
entitled
would
to share your
adamantly
story, and
disagree. Yeah.
yeah, I think you have a lot to add to the discussion,
Yeah, certainly.
based on what you experienced because I mean, just in the last 5 minutes, you're talking about how you were on the battlefield for two people being killed, and you were you weren't the one actually slinging the rounds up in the front, but you're doing everything that's as important. And you were there, and you were humping that saw over grape rows
saw,
for
right.
however many miles. So, imposter syndrome is a real thing, and even guys that have seen a lot of shit, everybody experiences it to some degree.
Yeah,
like there's people that have like multiple awards and been in like 10 deployments. Like, yeah, I've been on 10 deployments into combat, but it wasn't like World War II, so I don't really talk about it. It's like,
right,
bro.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things about that mission that we went on with, that patrol, it was a company patrol, which was kind of unusual for us, especially that early in the deployment. But
because Captain Kitchen wasn't far behind me.
Yeah, and that was one of our first forays out east. So like that was part of that experiment to go out to the eastern part of the AO to see what was going on out there. And that day in particular, man, like that was not a easygoing day. There was some serious fighting going on that day. So like, you don't there's no need to feel like you didn't do your part, because that firefight was fairly thick. At least what we heard going on down.
We
in
heard
third,
of it,
and then up in first we got hit a couple times, and that was probably my second close call to deployment. Or round just zip over my head.
Oh yeah, because you were saying that was the recoilless or something.
No,
was that another?
That was when
just a regular round. Yeah, we had not been shot at with the recoilless yet at this point.
Yeah,
gotcha.
No,
thank God.
That was the first time that we had the Gustav out there.
It was, yeah.
But that was I was not gunning it. Someone else was, and this person launched and missed a grape hut by like 50-something feet, just sailed off into oblivion.
50 feet in height, about 2 kilometers in distance.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So yeah, I mean, we're going to start talking about that mission because it is kind of the core of what we wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah.
And then also after is a really big part of what we want to talk to you about. So this mission was, like Luke said, it was really unique in that you had both platoons out on a mission. But it wasn't both platoons out in their entirety. It was third squad of first platoon and your squad of third platoon. We weren't out as a full platoon. Well, maybe you guys were, but we were not out as a full platoon.
Yeah, I mean, because we had like Hojo, so I forget what platoon he was in, or what squad he was in, because I think he was still third platoon, but I forget what squad.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I think we had like a lot of A and A too, and then we even had Captain Kitchen out there with us. So I mean, it was definitely a big mission. And if I remember correctly, we were trying to find someone high value.
Because you guys were kind of sweeping in from the south, and it was kind of like we were making a semicircle towards each other. Just on the east side of Sperwan Ghar.
Temporal pincer.
A temporal pincer, minus the temporal part. We watched Tenet recently, so it's in our mind. But it was essentially was a pincer maneuver. It was the two elements working their way towards each other, but not directly. We weren't like walking straight at each other. We're kind of creating this net, and I suspect the reason for that was to try to catch if we were chasing a high value target. Which I don't remember one way or the other. So I'll trust you on that one. That one of us would push him to the other guys. He wouldn't be able to get out because we had 2 platoons, out there. Now, as far as I can remember, that was the first time we ever had that large of an element on the ground, other than clearing the horn. And I know from our perspective, it wasn't a terribly interesting story, other than we got shot at a lot. We went through like Adam's Eye and. Kind of down towards Salam Khan. We got a bunch of little gunfights with a mosque and shot a whole bunch of rounds at each other. And depending on on what version of the story you believe in, I'm still convinced we probably got in a gunfight with third platoon at one point in that mission.
Well, it wasn't with me. I was trying to sleep on my 30-minute flight and getting smacked. So
So I don't remember at what point in the mission you got hit, because we didn't know about it until I think
I
until
think it was
we linked
fairly
up with
early
you.
on. I don't think we were
Hmm.
very far away from the cop.
Hmm.
Granted, we weren't far away from the cop in the mission anyway.
Right.
Yeah, we weren't.
But I was just we were walking down this little pathway where on your left hand side you had, one of those mud walls, probably about maybe chest high, maybe a little bit smaller, and then immediately to your right you had this little creek that was going. And I think we were just getting ready to be at the village. I don't what village it is. I don't know, but we were starting to see some compounds, and
Hmm.
we passed this tree that had a little log, but the head of our element was still up there, and and not that it matters, but I think there was like a clearing up front where we could have turned around there too. So just kind of showing like what I remember. And then I remember hearing that, hey, I want to cross this, or we're going to cross this log. And so, our
And
front
that log
element,
was going from the path across the canal, right?
correct. Yeah. From that
Okay.
little creek, that
It's
log was
like a bridge
probably about
kind of.
6 inches, 6 inches wide, probably about maybe 3-4 feet long, something like that. But it was like right next to this tree. So our front element, they turn around and they start walking right by us, and then they head off. And so the person in front of me was young, and I think Mahoney was behind me, and then maybe two guys behind him was Captain Kitchen. I mean, he wasn't too far away from me. That was probably why they were like, oh, and we didn't have a saw gunner up front. Usually I'm always with Sergeant Maddox, who's my team leader. And so I think it came, and because Captain Kitchen was up there, I think they didn't have a saw gunner, and like, hey, I want a saw gunner up here. So Sergeant Maddox told me to head on up there. And so I did. And I set up right behind Young. And so once we were crossing that log, Young got about halfway, and I was already like not wanting to cross this log because I knew it was falling in, and then I knew I would never hear the end of it for the rest of the deployment, because they were already tallying the times that I've fallen. So like in our bunk, they already had like tallies going. I think I was already up to like 7 times. Like, I do not want to fall again.
Yeah, but at least you didn't make double digits.
Yeah, I didn't make double digits.
Yeah.
I lost a couple of digits, but yeah, no, I took that step with my right foot, and I immediately went down to the dirt. And at this time, I didn't know what the heck happened. I thought maybe someone else hit it, or I didn't even know it was like an IED at that time. I thought, I didn't know what happened. All I know is like my ears are ringing, face down in the dirt, and then someone runs over and throws me on my back. And I think that was Hojo. And a lot of people were telling me that he started aid on me first, like at least threw the first tourniquet on me. I don't remember that part. Maybe that was like a few seconds of not really knowing what was going on. But then I started doing like kind of trying to assess like what happened. Okay, well, I have this guy over here working on me. Like, is something wrong with me? And so then I start like looking down, and I see my pinky's gone, which I wish that the trigger weld was a little bit longer for the saw, because I think with my hand it covered like my 3 fingers, and the pinky just kind of hung out. And so I'm like, I see that's gone. I see that my right leg's gone. I look over, I see my left leg is just blood everywhere. And then I see my left hand is, blood everywhere as well. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fun. And then Burner's working on me and trying to talk to me, because I'm just quiet at this moment. I'm just like, cool, calm, and collective. And, this goes back to what I was saying before, where when I first joined, 2-7, and constantly getting smoked and, trying to break that to confidence level. I feel like all of that helped this situation, like prepared me for this situation for when it really mattered to not freak out or to not like second guess yourself or anything like that. And obviously in the beginning when, when that's happened, that sucks. Like, stop doing this to me or whatever. But, now that I think about it and have time to reflect, I'm like, thank God you did that. But, Doc was trying to talk to me. I don't know what to say to you. And so then, they prep me and I can hear Young screaming because he got hit in his elbow and then fell into the creek. So they were definitely worried about him with infection because that water is not friendly whatsoever.
Yeah, especially now with an open wound.
We call it shit water for a reason.
Yeah. And so then, they get me ready to go. Chopper's inbound and they start carrying me. And I think Captain Kitchen had the bottom left of the litter. So he was on my left leg. Maddox and Adams, and I forget who else was like carrying me as well. And they're, as they started trying to get across this little creek, and this is my chance to like kind of give him some crap for it. But and we all remember Captain Kitchen posting all over the place that he can bench 300 or more, and like no one can beat him. And this is just what I remember. He dropped me. And this is the only time that I screamed because I landed on my left leg, I guess. No hard feelings. I'm just messing with you. It doesn't matter.
Should have done some more deadlifts, sir.
Right, exactly. Or some more squats. I don't know. So they get me up and, they get me on the bird and, that's like a 30-minute flight back to CAF. And I remember getting to like the aid station there, get to the surgeon and they're like, hey, we got you from here. Where's your ID? I point to the ID and then I'm out. I wake up in like this really odd room because there's like all these beds all over the place. It's not like you have like a curtain, you have some privacy or whatever. It's just like massive amount of people in like one little spot. And I think I was at CAF until about like midnight or so. And then flew to Launchstool, but stopped off at Germany or Bagram, I should say. And, and 5 days, just about. Yeah. Yeah. And so I remember, I didn't sleep there at all, really, unless I was in surgery. I couldn't sleep in my bed at all. But I had Young there, he came to see me a couple times. I had some of the guys calling me and stuff. And I remember, and my mom thought I was nuts because she called me and I was just like, hey mom, what's up? Like nothing. She was like, do you know what happened to you? I'm like, yeah, I got blown up. What are you talking about? Yeah, I'm fine. Like, what's going on? Like, is there something else that I don't know about? Drugs are good. The drugs are great. So definitely freaked her out a good bit. So yeah, I was there till about the 29th and almost didn't get to leave because I had some like issues with my blood. I guess like the levels just weren't right for transport. And then also like my wound vacs were messing up as well. So they had to try to find me, new wound vacs and so that I could get on the bird to head home.
Like I said, we didn't know you'd got hit.
Yeah.
Until we linked up with the rest of 3rd Platoon. And this is just kind of to close out what happened on the ground so that we can talk about what happened after.
Yeah.
Because there's some really, really neat stuff we really want to talk about. I remember seeing pieces of your saw in a Grape Row.
Did anybody get pictures of that? Because I would love to see what happened to that guy.
I don't think anybody has pictures.
No.
Yeah.
I just remember seeing it. It was like they like dumped it into an ammo can or something and like tried to get the thermite to light it all off, and they failed miserably.
Yeah.
The thermite didn't kill it all, and
I am so glad I was a saw gunner though. Like man. just looking at my injuries, like if And I guess even hearing the stories of what my saw looked like, thank God,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was blown shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that
it.
was the thermite that they threw on it, or how much of it was
Yeah,
the
right.
the
I think,
IED.
like, from what I remember, basically the little blob on the feed tray had been melted by the thermite, but the rest of it was still blown all to shit. Like the stock and the pistol grip and all that stuff was just basically not there.
Well, like I said, I mean, this is like a clean cut. That's where the trigger weld or the handle stopped.
Yeah.
And then with my left hand, that was all underneath the saw. That's how I was holding it. So that got really jacked up. And then and I know we all laughed at them, but when we got those diapers, remember those like diapers that we had to wear, like thank God for that. I think with the way I was striding, that's why I kind of like did like a Forrest Gump moment where it just like jumped up and bit me, in that area. But thank God for that.
Your strike is the single event that changed the rest of the deployment for us.
You're welcome.
Because it was the first time I remember that we stepped off the roads. Because we had been walking roads all the time and paths and stuff, and we didn't really think much of it.
Yeah.
And we would obviously walk roads for short periods of times later. Because sometimes you just had to. But I remember distinctly that day going back to Sperwan Ghar. And like you said, we were close. We could see it the whole time.
Yeah.
And I just remember looking at Sperwan Ghar and looking to my right at this beautiful path, just paralleling us like 5 feet away.
Right.
And we're just like up and over grape rows and up and over walls and all this stuff and smoking the crap out of us. And just looking over at that path. And we paralleled it all the way to Sperwan Ghar, and Sperwan Ghar never got bigger until we were at the south gate.
Yeah.
So thank you, but also damn it.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that, not that, like I said before, I'm glad that it, on that day it was me because someone else was going to get it.
Sure.
And, I'm totally okay. They always say if it's your time, it's your time. And I think that, that resonated a lot with me. And I think that helped me with like kind of processing it too. And then also thinking of like the guys behind me, like I wouldn't have wanted any of them to get hit. And so, I was totally fine. With
I'm
it
sure
all.
it was also kind of a mind game for those guys after you got hit. Like you weren't the lead guy.
Yeah.
You were in the middle of the formation.
Yeah. I mean, I was like the 8th or 10th guy. So, and they went over it twice, kind of. I mean, they, a game of inches, but, essentially any of them could have just went that inch to the right, inch to the left, whatever, and got it. But,
it's just, this particular circumstance illustrates the game of inches so much.
Oh yeah,
it does.
Just and how meticulous we were to try to stay in the lines and walk where the other guy walked and stuff. And it's just like you can do it 360 days out of or 270 days out of the year.
Yeah,
but eventually it's not going to work out. And
actually, the guy in front of you has a size 8 boot, and you have a size 12 and a half.
So when you got to Walter Reed, like we said, you have the distinction of, I think you were our first Walter Reed
I was
arrival.
the first guy sent back, I'm pretty sure. Like everyone that got hit, got hurt before, they like went to CAF, got patched up, and then kind of got sent back or whatever, because they were just like grazes or
like a TBI or shrapnel else. Or something.
But I think I was Young and I were the first ones to be sent back.
Right.
So that was an interesting time too. The flight on the way back was great because I had an epidural and morphine push at this time, so that was a very comfortable ride. But once I got there, what's crazy is they had these like giant ambulance buses.
Yeah.
And so like all of us are on this, and there was with me, most of the guys like they could walk off. There was like only me and maybe two others that, needed to be assisted. One guy was in like a induced coma. And it was a Marine. His name was Jed. His dad was on the plane back from Germany because he was really messed up. And I remember his dad came to talk to me, prayed, and then all that. And then when we got to Walter Reed, we were basically on the opposite sides of each other. I was on the left side, he was on the right side. I could see his room, whatever. And so kind of got to talk to him a little bit. And oh God, again, like how I had that phone call with my mom when we got into the elevator, and I had like my mom, my dad, my stepdad, my sister, I had everyone in there. And, it was just kind of a very quiet elevator ride. And so it's like, hey guys, what's up? And they're just like, shut up. Like, I hate you right now for scaring the crap out of us. But no.
You said your family was pretty close to
they
Walter
were
Reed.
about an hour away.
Awesome.
I think that was
That's good, man.
That was the deciding factor of keeping me at Walter Reed, because I was, about ready to go to San Antonio, because they had a good program too there for amputees. But it was definitely that deciding factor that my family is here, so let's stay here.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, well, you'd like to think that since you were since you were the first to Walter Reed, that you would also be the first to leave Walter Reed, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, no, that was not the case.
You have the unique distinction of being one of the people that was there for so long, man. I mean, some guys that get wounded late in the deployment were out of the Army before you even left. Left Walter Reed.
Yeah, so that was an interesting time too. And so like right after I got injured, we start dropping like flies. I think Cedino was like the next one. And, I remember like always going to his room to see how he's doing. And he was like one of the only ones that I actually knew that got injured. Everybody else I didn't know. I didn't know Dennison. I didn't know Todd. I heard of Clark, but I didn't really like get to know him like I did Cedino. And then Boyce, I remember him. I remember Perez coming to visit. Like we have a picture all together. Like Perez, me, Boyce, and Clark all together. Hedrick, I didn't know him either. And but what I tried to do, when I was there, is I had a pretty good relationship with our liaison, like NCO there. And so I was like, whenever my guys come, let me know, and I want to be there. And so I was there, for all the guys, even if I didn't know them. And when I was able to start walking, I'd like walk into their room. I would wheel up to their door. I'd walk into their room just so, kind of give them that visual that, okay, hey, you just lost like your leg or both legs, whatever, you could still, you're going to get that ability back again. And at that time too, I also had this like giant bird cage, which, had all these pins in my legs. So, I mean, I just wanted to show them that, it's going to be okay. And I remember like Clark, one of the things that he said to me is like, you motivate the fuck out of me. Cause he just saw me walk in. Granted, I ran pretty much to the chair so I could sit down cause it hurt like hell. But, I wanted to just show that, it's going to be okay. And to what you guys said before, I did a good job because they all left before me.
Yeah. And that's good, man. I mean, I think, like being there, being the first one on the door and being willing to make that effort to show up for those guys had to be invaluable to them. I mean, that had to be worth a lot to see it walk into the room and, especially after going through that trauma and everything. So it was cool that you had the wisdom and the foresight and the wherewithal to understand, that was something that you contributed to those guys. I'm sure they're
Yeah,
very thankful for that.
Yeah.
I just try to focus that as being my like next mission, so, and I
Sure.
think it helped me mentally as well with my recovery process and everything. And before I met my wife, I was even kind of thinking about being one of those liaison guys, because I thought, but I wouldn't have gotten that rank being injured. I think you had to be like an E6 to get it.
And that's one thing I wanted to ask you about. Was there already a liaison in place when you got to Walter Reed?
There
Because
wasn't.
you probably were the first third
Yeah.
ID soldier that was wounded
Yeah,
on the ground in years.
Yeah. The liaison that we had was someone that was just covering basically. And then later on, when I think more of the guys started getting hurt, we actually had a third ID guy come.
Okay.
His name was Sergeant Ricks.
Yep.
And he was, the third ID. The other guy,
Right.
I think he might've been 82nd or something of that nature.
Yeah.
And, just kind of covering down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, and even the fact of like being the first, and no offense to them at all, but our guys weren't even tracking me. Like rear detachment wasn't even tracking me. They didn't even know about me. It took a phone call from my old platoon sergeant because he was checking on me, Sergeant First Class White. He was checking on me, and he was like, "Hey, has your guys contacted you, from back stateside?" I'm like, "No, I don't think they even know about me." And he was like, "Give me 5 minutes," and he just like went over there and did something, and then they called me right away, and then they were like, "Hey, we'll be up there to see you next week." With
I imagine what he did was very loud.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And deservedly so.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
It changed the tune pretty quick, but I was just a private. I didn't know any better. And not that it mattered to me at all. It really, didn't hurt my feelings one way or the other. I'm sure they had other things that they were tracking, and like I said, I was just there like 2 weeks before you guys left. Like they're already keeping track of like how many people in our whole entire battalion or whatever, So,
once you got through the Walter Reed process and you ended up kind of leaning into all this stuff, what did life look for you on the back end of that? I mean, how long did it take you to recover, and what did life, kind of play out for you once you got past that point in your life?
So life was definitely a struggle, because with me, we were dealing with a limb salvage leg. My left leg just was not happy with anything that we did. I had pretty much the bulk of my surgeries were trying to save the left leg. And just to kind of give a rundown of the injuries, there is my upper thigh inside is all skin graft. There is nothing for my shin. They had to take my calf muscle. They had to split that in half, cover the top half of it, and then put what they call shark cartilage or integra on the other part, just so that they could put skin over top of it and cover that. And then the ankle was just completely destroyed. We had to eventually get a ankle fusion and a brace from San Antonio, so that I can be functional and that I can kind of run, which I can. But yeah, I mean, that was the main factor of me staying there for so long. And then, even another part, with trying to move on with life, I reconnected with my wife, Lauren, when I was at Walter Reed, probably like about December of 2012. Because March 2013, we started dating. But I had to tell her that I can't have kids naturally. And that was rough. I kind of came out with it real quick to let her know that, like, all that stuff's there, but it's like trying to take a BB gun or a pellet gun,
Mhm.
against a 7.62. Like
Mhm.
they're there, but they can't do anything. They're not going to be able to do what they need to do to have a kid. So we need to go into, we need to do IVF. And, I told her that straight up. And for some odd reason, she stayed with me.
And this is
And
all due to the blast injuries.
yeah, and this is all due to the blast.
Yeah.
And again, thank God for those diapers that they gave us. Those Kevlar diapers.
Mhm.
But yeah, we were gonna struggle to have a family, and struggle did we have. And because at this time, like my urologist there was like, marry her now so that the military can help you, because once you're out, there's nothing available for you. And like, I wasn't going to start a relationship off of that, like neither of us were going to do that. And so
Sure.
we, luckily with her insurance, because she was working at a school at that time, it was able to cover IVF. And so we were able to find a local clinic, Shady Grove Fertility, which is like one of the best pretty much in the world. And they're in Rockville. And so we were able to go with them. Our first cycle failed, and then we were able to get our first child after the second cycle. But that, kind of before that is when we got connected with, I think, Wounded Warrior Project, Resolve, where, we can say a lot of things about Wounded Warrior Project, but when it comes to legal stuff, I don't think there's any military group better. There might be some other ones, but they were a big factor in pushing this. And so what that was to get the 30-year-old law changed that prevented the VA from stepping in. So we lobbied
this whole law
Congress.
prevented the VA from funding IVF, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it prevented them from funding it because it was just outdated.
Yeah.
It was outdated.
And you were saying earlier, it's because way back when, in the early days of IVF, they would just kind of like, it was like a shotgun technique. They'd eventually
exactly.
it would result in aborted eggs or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And they made a law banning it so that
put a stink
exactly.
on the VA.
Put a stink on it.
So.
Right.
Yeah. So we lobbied Congress. We had forget.
And this was for so that you could have your second child, correct?
What's that?
Because the first one you were able to have with
correct
under your wife's insurance, but the second one.
The second one was going to be on our own if
right.
if nothing changed in Congress, and we were already lobbying this before we even had our first.
Okay.
We started this like 2015. Our first daughter Claire was born in 2016, so we were already like starting this. We knew that we were already good, at least for the first, but we knew there was a lot of people not so lucky, not so lucky to have an insurance with the school system that, paid for it all. And so, we lobbied. We had a lot of muscle going through, and, they actually approved it. They approved, they kind of approved like a more provisional one where every 2 years it would get renewed, but something. And when it came time for us to start for our second child, I won't say it went smoothly, because it was just like you had to go through the VA and then through another party, but for the most part it was pretty smooth.
Yeah.
And we were also their guinea pig too. We were their first ones. So here again, I'm like the first.
So you were the first veteran to get an approved IVF under VA funding?
I'm not sure if I was going to be the first, like for all the VA, but I was definitely the first for Martinsburg VA in West
Right.
Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Because they've never done this process. It was still a fairly new process. Not a lot of people knew about it anyway. It's one of those things where you don't know about it until you start asking people.
Yeah.
And so it was great that we were able to kind of be, essentially that first again, at least for our area. But it worked, and we had our second kid. So it was, I say it's a job well, a victory.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I hope that we were able to help a lot of other families. I think we did. But yeah, it was definitely that was that second mission. So
Which you said you appealed to Congress. Which members of Congress were the ones kind of working with you to get this to happen?
There was Senator Murray out of Washington State, I believe. She was like the main one that was kind of like hitting the bill. She's the one that I think wrote it and everything like that. She's a Democrat. And not trying to get political or anything like that, but
I feel like this should be a very apolitical issue.
Yeah,
it should.
Yeah, you look at veterans, and sure, we're crazy, but especially for the guys that got injured, the one thing that they're going to teach their kids is perseverance, and I think we need a lot of that right now, where life brings you down and you just keep going. And I think that's something that's missing a lot lately, where someone tells me no and I just cry about it, and I don't do anything.
Right.
And I just feel like we, as especially like wounded veterans, we can offer a good life for these kids, like our kids, and like, why wouldn't you try to do whatever you can to allow us to do that? Everyone has that dream of, a house, picket fence, and kids. And it was almost like they wanted that, but not for you guys. That's what it kind of seemed like a little bit. Everyone else can do it, but not veterans that are having these types of injuries, because it gets into that whole abortion. And I'm like, we are the most pro-life people around. We're trying to make life, and you are making it difficult because you are going off of a 30-year-old science. Right. You're not listening to the doctors now. You're not listening to like how things have changed drastically. And they're still trying to mess with like what we do with our embryos and things of that nature. It's like, I don't understand why government needs to try to like govern our
control
embryos,
everything. Like me either.
We'll just keep it at that. I'm like, I don't understand. We're just trying to get that American dream too, and we lost that because.
Yeah, and we can separate the politics from it and just say a fairly basic statement that if somebody got wounded at war, then society should be willing to allow them to take whatever means they can to create the life they envision for themselves. And if that includes children, then our society should support the veterans or someone who's been wounded more in that fashion. Whatever they need to do to make that happen needs to be a reality for people. So, society, government, whatever, should not dictate that.
Exactly. And then also with us trying to advocate for veterans getting access to like IVF, the hope was that this should transfer out to the civilian sector too, because it's hard for them as well. Not like every business covers this, and it's very expensive. And so like, if the government starts doing it for, the government employees, then hopefully it would trickle down to, those civilians. And, that was the ultimate goal too. I think if we got that full bill, maybe that might have made things a little bit easier for them, but
It's good you got the work done. It's good you got the work done that you did, man. And I'm really, and that was one of the things that we talked about before is, I love the fact that I feel like you're a good example of someone who's really made life work for him post facto. It doesn't, you got fucked up in Afghanistan, but then you've carried on and you've created a life for yourself, and you've married well, sounds like, and you've created 2 beautiful children.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And and you're living your life.
Definitely an upgrade.
And it's really encouraging to see that even a guy who got seriously wounded at war is able to move past that, move into that next step and create a real, true, and honest life in spite of the adversity and the trauma and everything that you had to go through personally. And that's a valuable thing that people need to learn to begin to grasp to, because it's a hell of a circumstance, man. And I think that's something I definitely respect you for. And I think I can speak for Curtis too here. Like, we respect the fact that you took charge and, you made it your own on the back end of everything.
And you also took care of other people too. It's easy, and you were already set. You were already on your wife's insurance having your first kid, and you were already fighting for other people to be able to do so. You may not have had a second kid, but you saw the gap in the system. Yeah. And at that time, that gap didn't even apply to you. Yeah. And you still went forward, and you still advocated for it, and man, kudos, man. All the respect in the world for stepping up when you didn't even have to, man. It wasn't even your fight at first. Yeah. It became your fight. Yeah. But, at the time it wasn't. So definitely great wasn't. Work, man.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it. It was just, something that we felt that, both my wife and I felt that we needed to do, because it was something that was wrong, and, it needed to change. And, you're talking about how, like, again, going back to what I was saying before, like, I persevere through some crazy stuff. And I'm just going to teach that to my kid. I mean, I wish I didn't right now, because she is basically me, and she figures things out that, I don't want her to figure out just yet. And she's only 4, but it's like, it's already working. And, that I think that's what we need in society more. Oh God, we broke our stovetop one time, and she wanted scrambled eggs or whatever. And at this time, my wife and I didn't know you could microwave it, but we go, well, honey, we're waiting on a new stovetop, so we can't cook them right now. And she goes, without even thinking, she goes, you can use the microwave.
Yeah.
she's like 3 at this time. Yeah. And she already knew that. Like, my wife and I are looking at each other like, can we? And so we Googled it, and you can, and it's actually not half bad. But it's just like, it's those little things that she's already able to figure that stuff out. And I can't help, like, God, that's what we need, and it's probably more my wife, but we'll just say for the sake of argument right now that it was, me persevering through this, and we'll just go with that. But that's the thing that's, we're trying to fight for. And
that's good, man. Todd, it's good and beautiful, and human.
Yeah. And I mean, you see Todd, he built his own freaking barn with one leg. I mean, and
he was also running the Army 10-miler like 4 weeks after his injury. So,
well, yeah, that too. I mean, I walked the 10-miler. I did a couple of those, but yeah, he
had a freakishly fast recovery.
Yeah. Screw his scratch. I mean, God, he kind of pissed me off a little bit. He was like, I think he was out before like anybody else was too.
Yeah.
He was like one
Well,
of the first.
to be fair, his wound was pretty minor. I mean,
yeah,
he lost his foot. He didn't lose his leg.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. Still,
know.
screw him.
He's
Um,
probably cuss snatching out
you know.
Curtis. If he's listening to this, he's like, you know what? Fuck you, man. I got my shit blown off.
Right. Right. I mean, no,
I held your broken foot in my hand, Calvin.
right. Oh man.
But yeah.
Well,
man.
Jay, we always close these things up with an opportunity for you to, get on your pulpit and say whatever it is that you want to say. Anything that you wanted to talk about during the episode we didn't get to, or anything you just really wanted to say. So, the floor is yours, man.
Well, I met up with him at Walter Reed once, but obviously want to just thank Burner for everything that he did. Sorry I messed you up, because according to like Luke here, and when they saw you, it was you were rough, but thank you so much for everything that you did for me. Thank you, Hojo. What's I don't remember his real name. Like what?
Hojanaki.
Hojanaki. Thank you for being right there. If you're listening, just thanks to everybody. It would, especially in the early going, everyone was supporting me. Everyone was rooting for me through Facebook. I was always trying to keep you guys updated. Make sure that I let you know that I'm taking care of everyone. I would also like to see, and granted, this is just, our little podcast and stuff, but, for any of the new guys listening, like, especially like new privates and whatnot, and those young guys. And, I don't know if it's even possible, but I would like to say you could go to like that, before you deploy, go to that, like, because I know you're not thinking about kids and thinking about your future, but go to that, fertility clinic close by or something and just store some stuff,
Sure.
I mean, I was lucky that all that stuff kind of still worked, but not all the way. But I mean, I know people that they had to use donor, and like, I mean, that's going to be rough. You're doing what you can, but that's got to be rough. And none of us are thinking about that. We're not really thinking about our future, or we're not even thinking about that we're going to get hurt like that. But that's what these IEDs are meant to do. That is exactly what they're meant to do. They're meant to disrupt. They're not necessarily meant to kill, but they're meant to disrupt everything. And I would like to see, like a program like that, like where, before guys deploy, you look into that, and I don't think that was ever something that anybody thinks of. Just want to like kind of, give them like some, wisdom and to protect your future,
I'd say the Army should do it, but they would definitely screw that up. So
Yeah, most likely. But,
just do it on your own.
right. Yeah, exactly. And then also another thing, stop whining about getting smoked every single day, because, that's, I mean,
there's a purpose for it.
Yeah, there is a purpose for it. And, I thank God for it, because I don't think if I like freaked out that day, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'd be sitting here talking to you guys.
Sure.
And then, another thing that, to make this a little bit more fun, the day before I got blown up, I was like, just had my first cigarette. Can't wait to get the F out of here. And then next morning at about 7 a.m., I'm out, so don't smoke. You'll get blown
kills.
up,
Smoking.
What's that?
Smoking wounds.
Yeah, smoking wounds.
Right.
Well, I would say from us, man, thank you, because our lessons in Panjwai were harshly learned, and you were the final nail on driving it home to us to get off the roads. And honestly, man, like, we owe it to you, the lesson of get off the roads, at least for first platoon, because at that point we had already fucked up pretty badly on the roads with the engineers. Right before you got hit,
Yeah.
it was a couple weeks before, and so it was
Yeah.
good to get that lesson driven home, and after that it changed, and our interaction with IEDs decreased significantly after that. If we would have kept going the way we were before you got hit, we would have gotten
probably
a
lost
lot more people
than what
We
we
lost
did, so.
half our company.
Yeah.
Half our
So
company
that was
easily.
that was it.
I mean, I'm just glad you guys, definitely got that support you needed. After, a number of us got injured or whatever. I'm just glad that things were able to change for you all for the better. And, even kind of like rewind a little bit too. I'm glad I was able to be there for at least when I think the first half of you guys came back, because I was down there at Fort Stewart and I was able to walk you guys out to that welcome home ceremony, that first one, because I think they did it like a couple of waves or something like that.
Yeah, third platoon came home before we did.
Yeah,
so we were the trail element. We were the last ones back.
Yeah, so I got to see all my guys come back, and that was awesome.
Cool.
But, and
and also thanks for coming on, man. I mean, it's been a lot of first platoon guys. By this point, it's been a pretty tight circle. So, I appreciate you trusting us to tell your story and being patient with us and letting us help you tell your story. And so thank you for that, man.
No, thank you guys for having me on here. This has been fun. Kind of. You haven't talked. Well, I mean, I've talked about it, but I haven't talked to it with other guys that were there that I was with. So it was good seeing you guys again, and good talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Thanks for
appreciate
stopping by.
Yep. Thank you.